What, you might be thinking? I'm talking about Aha yet again? Well, a little bit, but this time I'm talking about Mags Furuholmen of the synth-pop superstar group Aha, with a little bit more of a focus on this individual member of the group. So I know he technically has a different first name, but I'm just going to call him Mags because that's a very common nickname for him, and it's easier for me to pronounce it without butchering it. So, Mags was born in Oslo, Norway in November 1962, and that currently makes him 59 years old as of this recording. And Mags plays keyboards, vocals, and guitar. Well, I guess you don't say somebody plays vocals, but you know what I mean. And he is part of Aha with Morten Harket and Paul Wakhtar Savoy. They were the core members of the group, and of course, their big hit was "Take on Me." At least in the United States, they've got other hits. They're not really a one-hit wonder band, and their breakthrough album on a global scale was 1985's "Hunting High and Low." A lot of people in the US probably don't own that album, but they've certainly heard the song "Take on Me." And before Mags was in Aha, in 1980, he was part of a project called Bridges, which released their only album, a self financed LP called Fackeltag. So I don't know what that word means in English. Maybe it's actually a place name for all I know. Um, but that was apparently, where he got his start releasing that album, self financed, so he was in a way sort of operating by the DIY principle, apparently. Now, in addition to Aha, he has his own solo musical career, and he's a visual artist. In fact, he created the largest ceramic sculpture park in Scandinavia, titled Imprints, which is located outside of Oslo. So, Take On Me is often considered among the biggest hits of the 1980s, to some perhaps even embodying the 1980s new wave synth pop sound at its best, or if you're a hater, perhaps at its worst. However, if you're capable of liking Aha and Mags Furuholmen's work, his solo work as well, you might want to include all of that in a playlist along with bands like the Talking Heads, Devo, The Knack, The Cure, Kraftwerk, David Bowie, and Adam and the Ants. So, he's fitting in pretty well with that type of music as far as I'm concerned. Um, but actually, that might be not giving you the whole picture because it's not like they're just an 80s relic band. They have continued past the 1980s and they're evolving. For example, a lot of Mag's more recent work that I've listened to, you can tell there might be a little bit of a Radiohead influence actually on his own music. And there's actually kind of a creative take on Christmas as one of his albums is like a dark portrayal of the commercialization of Christmas. Not that the whole album is like that depressing as far as I can tell, but it's almost like a parody of, the way that Christmas has been cheapened over the years. So there's actually a little bit of humor, I would say, in that album, as well as, maybe some serious commentary as well, sort of like what Radiohead actually does. And on that note, not to get too sidetracked here, but I think that Radiohead has more humor than they're sometimes given credit for. And I find that quite often happens in music. Something is maybe seen as just being serious or just being this way or just being that way. and a lot of the dynamics that are actually in a song or an album or within the band's, musical history are sort of pigeonholed. They're overly classified and, almost unfairly. It's almost like you're belittling that band if you're like trying to oversimplify what they stand for and what they've done creatively over the years. So, wow, I kind of did go on a little tangent there, but the point is that Mags, he's got more than one style that I've heard. Granted, you can kind of know what you might hear a little bit in terms of, the overall sound. Um, but I would really just say that you shouldn't have too many preconceptions about this man's work. And in fact, Aha themselves, they have different sounds. Like I've heard, I wouldn't say it's a heavier Aha song exactly, but it's it's a little bit more well, it's just different from what you might expect if you've heard Take on Me. They don't always have quite as upbeat of a sound, if that makes sense to you. Not to say you know, they're necessarily like a goth band or something. But well, on that note, even some goth bands actually have more upbeat songs, like The Cure. So really, I guess my point is just don't pigeonhole these bands and these musicians because often they have various moods and messages that they like to convey. So, also, I should note that Mags was part of the supergroup Apparatchik, as well as another group called Timber Sound that contributed to soundtracks for a few films. And, just check out his music. Again, you can add it to a 1980s playlist, which would, definitely be pretty good. And I'm just going to end it there. I don't really have much more to add. These are just my thoughts on, this guy is a solo artist and how, if you're interested in the music of Aha, if you like Take On Me, well, you might want to explore the other things that people like Mags bring to the table.